Isn't it early for beer?
No.
But it's like 2:30.
Is it recording now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. A few things to get out of the way. First, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Michael Risica, who is the young architect. And if you don't know who he is or what he is about, you should check him out. If you are a young aspiring architect looking to get your license or looking to do better in this profession.
Or even if you're not young, you can still look him up.
Or even if you're not young, this is true. And also a shout out to Archinect. They've been really kind to us. And we interviewed both Mike and we interviewed Mike a while ago and Paul Petrunia, the founder of Archinect. They're totally unrelated, the both of them. And you can listen to their interviews on our show. And Archinect's been good to us. They've been helping us out with some things. So a shout out to them. They their website is very, very useful for people in the architecture profession. They have a really good forum, and they also have a job board. So if you're looking for work, then that's a really good place to go to.
Probably the first place to look into, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's pretty updated. It covers many different locations.
Yeah. I think all the offices that matter are on there, and many offices that don't matter are on there also. What else is there that's going on? I guess introduction, right?
Yeah, intro.
Well, welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Midnight Charette podcast, hosted by myself, David Lee, and Marina Bourderonnet. This is we are the world's first design variety show. We are a variety show because
wait, are you just claiming that?
Yeah,
or
we are the world's first.
Oh, okay.
I think this is also why people are confused by what we're about. It's a variety show. We have hotline. People call in. We talk about their issues and things. The number is 213-222-6950. We have guides. We have interviews. We have fun conversations that are about everyday life. We have it all. And we do design reviews also. My goodness, like 5 different things.
Yeah, obviously you're not, so you wouldn't get bored listening to our stuff. It's not like we just keep repeating the same content all the time.
Do you have some?
Even if sometimes we just ramble a lot, but that's okay.
You have to have rambles. It's ebbs and flows.
Well, you got a French one in the team, so that's what you get. You get rambles.
And what else? Oh yeah, we are supported by NAAD, NAAD. ME.com is their new website. Their old website works just as well. They're an online retailer. They have a variety of home goods that are designed by the creative folks from the Middle East and North Africa, and their products are quite unique, quite interesting, and they curate a good selection, I think, and they're reasonably priced. But you can also use the code MIDNIGHT to get 15% off your order if you feel like you want to save more money. So go to naadme.com.
And they've been doing a pop-up in Paris, actually, that started, I think, when was that? On the 5th of November, and is now extended until November 16, I believe. Mm-hmm. So that's
time to make a trip to France. We are also supported by Graphisoft. Graphisoft is a computer software company. They have a program called ArchiCAD. ArchiCAD is a BIM program for architects. If you don't know what BIM is, listen back to episode... Oh, we should really look up what episode that number
136.
Is it 136? What? What? You can't speak so confidently, and then
you gotta be confident in life. You gotta say things that you truly think it's the truth.
Sounds like a lot of bullshit.
That's what I've been working on lately. Let's see who finds it first. Oh. And my phone is too slow.
It is episode 136, where we talk about computer programs and we discuss BIM programs as well.
Impressed?
The BIM conversation comes about halfway through that episode, if you're only interested in that. But ArchiCAD is a really powerful piece of software. We recommend it. We like it. I think for a lot of people, the question is, do I use Revit? Do I use ArchiCAD? Both are good. Both have their pros and cons. What we like about ArchiCAD is that it's fast, it's Mac friendly, it's light, and it is very user friendly for offices of all sizes. And that's one of the challenges with more complicated programs.
And you purchase the license. It's not subscription based.
Oh yeah, you own it. You own it. All right, those are the sponsors.
So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we have a few people that wrote in and called in that we're trying to get to. that I want to get to. First thing is that we received, I don't know if you know this, but we actually received a hotline voicemail from a young man. I don't know if he's young. A man. I don't know if he's a man, actually, these days. A person who sounded masculine, who, and I think this is really interesting. He heard our recording about iPal, which came from a hotline message we received from this young woman named Keisha. And she called in asking about applying to schools and how to become a licensed architect through iPal and all this stuff. And this person, this guy, he heard that one and he called the hotline and said, look, I think I might actually be able to offer some advice to this person because I might be from the same country. And I think she's from the Caribbeans or something quite particular. So we're going to try and get them in touch with each other. And he might be able to become a kind of mentor in that way. Isn't that cool?
Maybe they start dating, they get married, and they have babies. If we could like put people together in many different ways, I'm totally in.
So I think
that's pretty awesome.
I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but I think it's interesting because that's one of the hopes we have for the hotline is for us to give advice out there, but then also for listeners to help other listeners. So that's a really cool thing.
And connect people physically.
But the person who called and left that voicemail, if you could send us your email address, that might be an easier way for people to get in touch. That would be great. So if you're listening to this, please do that. Okay. Now, Brett, is that good? On to the next thing on the list.
If you are single, looking for a female architect between 25 and 35 years old, contact the hotline and we'll find you a match. And it's free.
Yeah.
You just don't really know what you're going to get. That's all I'm saying.
Well, so this is a person looking for a female architect or an architect looking for a female?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Are we trying to keep it inside the house? You know what I mean? Inside the architecture family?
Why?
I don't know.
You got to contaminate other people with architecture. I mean...
Yeah, this is true. That could be good. We could do that, I suppose. It's risky business. I'm not sure about that. We have to do background checks and, they have to do a medical checkup and things. All right. So that's that. What else do I have in my notes? We do have the recording about interviewing coming up really soon. So message us with your questions. Haven't been getting a lot of questions in. I'm a little concerned. I think it's because this is the wrong time of year to be doing a recording about interviewing, to be honest.
Or maybe people don't want to call.
Well,
you can text. You can text the hotline.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant people just don't want to talk to us at all.
Well, they would never talk to us, but you can text the hotline, text your questions. Don't be shy.
I just think it's the wrong time of the year. It's like Thanksgiving. No one is going to try to be interviewing during Thanksgiving, and also I don't think that people really like if we had asked questions for a portfolio episode. Regardless of the time of the year, I think we would have gotten more feedback because portfolios is the big thing, right? When you're thinking about job applications and stuff, it's the portfolio, and there's a lot of obvious questions that come with it. I think interviewing is a little more elusive. Interviewing is something that people don't quite think about as much, like when you ask someone, what are your questions about interviewing? But I don't know. How do I do a good interview? Like there's
the thing is the portfolio, you're in full control of it. The interview, you're not. So
yeah. Anyway, regardless of questions or not, it's going to be a good recording. And so stay tuned for that. Man, we have a lot of announcements going on today, don't we? What else is happening? I think that's it. So what do you want to do? We can jump into, we got another hotline voicemail, the first one. Do you want to do that one?
Sure. Which one is that?
Okay, so we got a person who wrote in. Well, this wasn't the hotline. He wrote in, basically asking what do I do because I was recently let go from my job. And what steps do I take? And it's a good question, and I wanted to get this one out there sooner than later because if
it just happened,
yeah. So, right, what do you do?
Well, you've been in that.
In
the shoes, so maybe you should talk about your own
Maybe we
experience.
should discuss what we want to reveal to the people in the public.
But
before
you've
we
revealed that before in another episode.
Yeah, so First of all, let me say to this person and anyone else who was recently let go, it sucks. There's no way around that fact and that statement. It just sucks. And when it happens, other people will tell you, oh, it's happened to me. It happens to almost everyone, right? It happens to a lot of people. It's common. And I understand why people say that. And objectively, it does help to see kind of the bigger picture, but subjectively in the moment, it doesn't help. There's really not much you can do, to avoid the emotion of it just sucking a lot. That's just the case.
I mean, it's like someone died or lost their legs. Well, some other people died and lost their legs. Yeah, but you know what? It doesn't make me feel better.
I still don't have my legs.
It still sucks.
So I think maybe so. This is what happened. For me, I've been let go, and it wasn't the most fun thing. And what made it difficult for me was that I've always thought of myself as a pretty hireable candidate and a pretty good employee. Of the particular office that I left, I did not like being there. So it was funny because you think that because I didn't like being at that office, that being let go would have made it easier. And maybe if you compare to me working at a dream job and then getting blindsided of being fired, it would have been worse. But let me tell you, even if you hate the office you're at, it still really sucks because you then, for me at least, there's a lot of anger. It's like, excuse me, I don't even like this office. You guys are total fuck-ups and you're letting me go? You're letting me go? How dare you? You don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? How dare you? You don't even know who I am. You don't even know. You don't know anything. So it's really...
I think it's a good... after you get let go, just find a room or a stairwell and just scream as loud as you can.
It's difficult to process, and one of the things is that typically when you're let go, you don't know what's going to happen. There's no leading up to it.
I think that's probably. I mean, I've never been let go, just saying, but I feel like
also we'll just call it fired. It's what it is.
It's just it's a soft way to say it doesn't hurt people's feelings, but at the end of the day, it still hurts your feelings. But I think that's probably the worst thing is that you don't see it coming.
Yeah.
Like, if you know you haven't been doing a good job or, like, you show sign that you didn't give a fuck and they're letting you go, then, it's kind of to be expected. Mm-hmm. But if you just go on about your day every day and, like, the next day, like, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to get fired. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, where is this coming from?
It's not even you're going to get fired. It's done. You're done.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing because, our jobs are probably the most consistent thing in our lives. Right. And more consistent than anything else because everyone has to make money to earn a living. So you're going to the job 5 days a week, 6 days a week, over and over for years and years. And it's just consistent. There's so many things about it you don't think about. You don't question because you're just doing it. And then suddenly it's like, oh, it's done. And so for me, the immediacy of it is really severe. I remember I was at my desk. I was working in AutoCAD. We were situated... The team that I was with, like, they ran out of space, so we were kind of, like, way off into the side, and everyone on the team was always getting sick because we were next to the windows. It was during the winter, and we were always sick. And we were telling the office, like, look, we're always sick, and I think it's because we need, like, heating where we are. Anyway, so I'm at my desk working in AutoCAD, and it was like, okay, can you come, let's have a chat? Okay, yeah, sure. Come over. The HR person's there. It's like, okay, this is a little suspicious. The HR person's here. And then they tell you that you've been let go. And my first thought was, so they told me, right, and they had a short conversation, and then my very first thought at the end of it was, but I was working on something, I need to finish my task. Because it didn't even after the conversation, a 15-minute conversation, whatever it was, it still hadn't really registered with me that at that point, I'm no longer at the office. I'm not an employee of the office. And
as soon as they drop that word on you.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's something you sign, but yeah. right?
That's it. Yeah.
But so that's even after a conversation about it, and us both thanking each other. It was a amicable release. It wasn't like something fiery. But even after that conversation, I was like, but I have to go back and like finish my task, and they're like, no, because you're done. And I'm like, well, should I go save? He's like, no, your computer's been turned off.
It's pretty radical.
It's kind of weird. And they don't do that because not all offices do it that way. And offices who deal with letting someone go, they don't make it immediate because they hate the employee necessarily. It's because they want to protect themselves from you, like stealing all of their data. I mean, anyone who's like left a job on their own accord, they quit. The first thing you do, as soon as you know you're quitting, you're like, okay, how much time is it going to take for me to download all the stuff from this office and get as much information from it I can before I have to go? And I've never done such a thing, but a lot of people do that. And of course, the office, they don't want you to do that. And especially they don't want you to do it if you're going to be potentially malicious. So they shut down the machine and everything else. But it was so, and you go back to your station and it's blank. It's dead. It's power off. And it sounds strange because it's a computer, but you have a very intimate relationship with this piece of hardware. Even though your keyboard and your mouse and your monitor is the same as everyone else's in the office, it's like it's yours, even though it's not. But you feel an attachment to it. And suddenly when it's like ripped away from you and it's just dead, it's no longer yours. It's very bizarre. You empty out your desk. And even things like, you have a key to get into the office or different rooms or whatever, like, it was an electronic key card, key fob. Like that doesn't work anymore. So
everything's
dead because they don't want you to do anything weird.
Like you're inexistent in their system.
Yeah. And that was a real strange thing because, and also it's the middle of the day. It wasn't like 6 p.m. It was like 3 p.m.
Like,
so
can they wait until like 5 p.m., get you in, and then the other day you go home? Like it's kind of weird.
I suppose they could have, but also maybe they.
No,
I mean,
they're just so tired of seeing you. They're like, let's just get him out of here. I can't see him any longer.
We have to let him go. It's what time is it? It's 3 p.m. We have to wait until 6.
No, let's just do it now.
3 more hours of his face. I don't know. But, the good thing about getting off in the middle of the day, you can kind of reflect and you're able to be outside. But anyway, so none of those things worked. So I couldn't, and we were on different levels, so I couldn't get to other levels anymore. And so what I wanted to do was go around and say, goodbye to the people that meant something to me and people I worked with. Because not everyone knew that I was going to be let go. And in fact, one of the senior partners I worked with, I had emailed with him afterwards because he wasn't in the office, so he didn't see it happen. And I was like, maybe you heard the news, yada, yada, enjoyed working with you, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, yeah, unfortunately, I don't have much power in the office as I used to because he was kind of on his way out or whatever, so et cetera, et cetera. But so anyway, I wanted to go around and say, goodbye to the people that I liked. And I ended up getting stuck in a stairwell because I left one floor to get into another, and I'm stuck in the middle of the hall. So I had to text my coworker who was on my team and be like, can you come get me because of yada, yada, yada? And she was like, I can't believe that this is happening, et cetera, et cetera. So I totally sympathize and I totally understand for anyone has recently let go that when it happens, it's like a totally shocking thing and that it's a range of emotions. The best thing you can do in that moment is just be
Don't
very
take
political
it personally.
And just be nice and that's it. But, and the other thing that makes it difficult in the immediate firing and then afterwards is that you don't ever really know why it happened. They don't tell you. It's
a little unfair. Like I remember that day you got home before I did. No, you got home early, and I was like, "Oh, happy to see you early." Like like what are you doing here that early? And you like put your bag down, and you're like, "I got fired." I was like, "Ha, what a good joke." I'm like, "No, seriously, what are you doing home that early?" And you can be like, "I got fired. I got let go." And I looked at you. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. You've been doing charrettes for like the past couple of weeks. You've been working so hard on this project.
Oh yeah, that was the part. Know? Yeah, and
as an outsider, I was like, this doesn't make any sense in any logic in any world.
I don't know. I mean, Actually, when I remember when I told you I was fired, I really enjoyed saying it because it's one of those things.
You laughed, and I was like,
"Yeah,
that's a joke."
It's because it's a very grown up thing to be able to say like I was fired today. You know, I'm gonna go drink a whiskey in the middle of the day. Like, what do I do with my life? You know, sit on a park bench next to a homeless guy, and especially when you're like in the middle of the day. You know, I remember I was walking around. And then I sat in the park for a bit, called my parents and talked to them. They've always been very supportive about the whole thing. And then just sat in the park. And of course, sitting in a park in the middle of the day on a Wednesday or Thursday, whatever it was, is like really bizarre thing. And then I was thinking like maybe I should really dig into this, and go to like a dive bar and get a tattoo or something, you know.
And I think the day before that happened, they gave you the day off because you work like you charetted for like a week or two to do a deadline or something.
Something like that, yeah.
So you had a day off, then you went back to work, and then they got you fired. And I'm like, but why? Don't even give him the day off. Just fire him.
But the thing was, yeah, we had a big deadline, and then we finished the deadline, and we were there super late, and it was like, high fives all around, and then I was let go. And so you might think that I would have been more salty because of that, but I didn't care. Like, it's like, I don't know, is it weird? Maybe it's not weird, but to me on paper, it would seem like if you were, you put in a bunch of extra hours for this deadline and then you let go afterwards, that this person would be more upset. But I really didn't care about that. And because one, late nights is what we're used to and I was used to. But also,
but at that point, it didn't matter.
But also the project, I didn't really care about the project, and I didn't like the office. There's a lot of things. Like I think maybe if it was a passion project of mine, and I was working with the team, and I really liked all my coworkers, and I liked the design and everything, then I was let go. I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird thing for when you're really passionate about doing work, even if it's a piece of architecture you're not really fond of, you still enjoy the work. You know what I mean? Like you still enjoy
I still
being
like
deadlines.
drawing bathroom plans, even if I forget.
And so maybe because of that reason, like it didn't bother me at all that I put in like more hours. Like, yeah, fine. It's something I enjoy.
I remember another office I worked at. There was like what they call the studios, right? So like groups of people working on the same projects, and it was a Friday night, and it was like happy hour time in the office, and like people from different studios were mixing up together, blah, blah, blah. And I started talking with this one guy from another studio, and it was like older, it was there for a few years, and it seemed to be like kind of like a standing out personality within that particular studio. Mm-hmm. And I show up on Monday, and the guy's gone.
Yeah.
The guy got fired.
Yeah.
And I was like, but we were having happy hour with him on Friday. So what happened between Friday and Monday for the guy to get fired?
Yeah.
And it was really shocking because the same thing, like the last time I saw him was the Friday during the happy hour, and he never got a chance to say goodbye. No one understood why he got fired.
Yeah.
I think it's very confusing for the person who got let go, for sure. But it's also very confusing for the people working around that have to just keep living and working like nothing happened. Like this person never existed. Nothing is wrong with the office. Yeah. They got fired, but
right.
What like you shouldn't think about the fact that this person got fired and that maybe you can get fired and they're firing everybody. Like,
it's almost
bankrupt?
It's almost science fiction like, because someone just vanishes and no one is allowed to talk about it in the public like office setting out loud. Yeah. You can talk it privately, but offices are weird because there's the public setting and there's the private setting when you're like at the coffee machine or whatever, right? Or at the kitchen. But in the public setting, you're not allowed to talk about it. So it's like, it's almost like you're in the Twilight Zone. Like people are just vanishing around you and you're like, okay, I'll just keep doing my work. And maybe I'm next. I have no idea. And
then that happened in another office I worked with where another guy got let go. So, like after working in different places, for a while, you see that it's actually very common. So, my first advice would be to this person, like, don't take it personally and don't think that never happens, because I think it happens way more than people think it does.
I think that's probably true.
And for, probably for different reasons. I think it would be good for offices when they fire people to truly tell them why they're firing them.
Yeah, I've thought about this. I think So,
or maybe it's risky.
If and when we ever get to have employees, and I had to let someone go, I would just be honest, because why not be honest? Maybe there's some kind of legal reasons why they wouldn't disclose. I don't know. I'm not sure why they wouldn't. But
it's like, I didn't like your face. Well, yeah, you can't say that.
I would. Yeah, I'm sorry. You just
you can't do that anymore.
But so what happened to me, and I was talking to the call them a project manager. Titles don't really mean anything in architecture, but to call them a project manager or partner, project manager and the HR person. And I asked him, I said, let me know, like right now, exactly what it is. I'd rather know than keep it hidden from me, so I can make sure that I do things differently at the next place I'm at or whatever. And, I was told that, no, it's just that, the project you were on, there's a big deadline that ended, and we don't have another project to put you on another team, which could have very well been the truth.
That's bullshit. But you can always help on a different project doing other things. There's always so many things to do in an architecture office.
I don't know. That office was very unorganized in many ways, because there were these big different studios, and they didn't communicate. And what happened was, in that office, is that the main partner retired, and there was a shit ton of middle management. This place was terrible to work at because there's a lot of middle management, and so you could tell that there were these giant chasms between different groups of people in the office. And before, they were all underneath this one umbrella of this person, but now they're gone. So who the fuck rises to the top, and how do you maintain communication? So you could just sense there was just a mess. But anyway, so that is the tough thing. You don't know the reason why. And that's one of the things that's always bothered me the most. And I think it probably is a natural, common human condition. The same thing when you interview somewhere and you don't get hired, or you don't get an offer. It's why?
Or somebody's breaking up with you, right?
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. I think you deserve to know where you did wrong. And to me, you would also deserve a warning, a chance to fix it before you actually get fired. To me, getting fired is the ultimate solution to a problem. But the fact that you're not addressing the problem, you just decide to skip it and erase it from the table.
I don't know. I mean, I understand. I think that logic applies really early on in the life of a person at an office, right? If you see something they don't like you're arriving late, too often, then that's one thing. But maybe at some point, and it's like in a relationship, if you're with someone and once you kind of know that you're going to break up with them, or you think about it, once you think about it, then you know it's going to happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's this kind of weird internal feeling you have in your chest, yeah, and then and even if you told that person the issues and you try to work on it, or you didn't tell them and you let things kind of evolve and see where they happen, you kind of already know, right? And most often, I think for most people, when they break up with someone, it's they've actually known it was going to end for the past 6 months or year or something. It just hasn't, they didn't say it yet.
So let me tell you, it's been about 10 years now, and I think it is time for you to know. Okay.
All right, free.
All right. So I think we covered the emotional aspect of it, and then that happened, right? So you probably drank a lot for the next few days after that happens, and
there are two routes for someone that's recently fired. If you have money to survive without a job for a bit of time, then this is one conversation. If you don't have money, then that in a way that makes your life and the decisions you have to make easier, because the decisions are made because you need to get a job to pay for rent.
So then, I can't remember, did you take any time off before thinking about reapplying at places, or the next day you're okay, let's just go on my portfolio and start applying? There
was definitely probably a good 48 hours of just, it also happened, and then there was a day left in the week, and then the weekend. So that gave me some time to kind of reflect. And I mean, again, if you absolutely need work to make money to pay for food and for rent, then that's not really much conversation to be had. You just get on with life and you do it. But I had a little bit of time, not a lot of time, because rent is so expensive in New York. I had a little bit of time. And if you have that, I would recommend you use it to think about everything. And I'm trying to think now. This person that wrote and actually wrote back to him, and what did I say? I said that. So I think one way to think about getting fired is that actually is a good thing, which sounds bizarre perhaps, but it's the same thing as there's this kind of philosophy that all divorces are good divorces, in fact, because what it means is that these two people weren't meant to be with each other, and now they're not with each other, right? It doesn't matter if only one person wanted the divorce and the other person loved them. It doesn't matter. It's a two-way relationship. So if one person is out and they don't want it, then it's got to end.
It's like a disease, you got to stop it before it spreads more. No, I mean, it's like a very clear analogy, right?
And I really like that philosophy because I think it's true. It on the one hand, it doesn't make sense, but on the other hand, it's totally true. And it's the same thing for any big transformation or change that happens in life, even if it's forced on you. So you choosing to quit you choosing to quit a job is basically the same. I mean, the result is the same thing as you getting fired.
You just got let go of the office you work for.
You fired
the office.
I mean, in a way, yeah, right? You fired the office. And so in a way, it's the same transformation, but that just gets pushed onto you, that the universe has forced onto you, right? And I think that's a nice way to think about it. And I think it's also an accurate way to think about it.
But it's interesting because I feel like when you quit a job in an office, it often ends nice. Like people are sad to see you go, but they're happy. But, it's like a positive ending in a way, right? But when you get let go, there's nothing nice about it.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
And that's probably from like the brutality and like the immediacy of what happens. Right?
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying maybe applies more to like the aftermath of getting fired rather than the moment of it. And the other thing too is like, I think it's probably fair to guess and to say that 94% of the people working, period, as in working in the profession of architecture design, they don't like their jobs. They wish they could be somewhere else, So, I mean, and it's very likely for a person that was let go that either think that the office you didn't like and you were probably had questioned numerous times whether or not you wanted to stay there. I think that's normal. And so it's like, in a way, it's like, well, this change was going to happen eventually. It's just happening sooner than you planned for, which might be even better. Most people, it's the same thing with a breakup. Most people know they want to leave the office, but they don't fucking do it until like 2 years later. And the worst scenario, way worse than getting let go, is the fact is being at a place you don't like and just kind of, going through the motions because that's what you're doing to support yourself and whatever, and fucking years go by and suddenly you're like old and fat and you've been at the office for 15 years that you don't really care for. And I think that's a pretty common thing.
I think it's a smart way to take it is just take it as a wake-up call. And, time to move on, time for something new, time to like shake yourself up again and get excited about finding a new job and new people that, work with you better.
The challenging thing is that even if you understand everything that we've just said, there's still for me, the question about why, and it's one of those weird things in life where it can't be explained because you won't know. You just need to kind of put a Band-Aid or seal over this gaping hole of knowledge, and you don't know really what it's about.
Encapsulate that
and
shit.
Then just move on.
Yeah.
And I think as a person, and I think maybe this is even worse for designers who are always trying to think about stuff from different perspectives and understand. Like, this is how we make progress and problem solve, is to role play and think about all the different variables and other things that we haven't considered yet, that when you're told here's this piece of information that's greatly affected your life, but you're never going to know it, that's a tough thing to accept. But that's what needs to happen. And I don't know if ego in this process is a good thing or a bad thing. I think it can be a good thing because it can reassure you that you're still you still have worth, you still have value, and that it'll help you move on to the next thing. I think it's also a dangerous thing maybe because it can make you just be very arrogant and vindictive and upset and angry, which I think are valid emotions, but you just can't act out on them because there's no point.
No, there is no point. So then you worked on your portfolio.
Yeah. So
for like how long?
Yeah. So a couple days to kind of think about stuff, and the portfolio and the resume, and then going back and looking at the big Excel spreadsheet of all the offices I'm interested in, and et cetera, et cetera. That took as much time as it needed to take. I don't know, maybe a week and a half or something. Then printing portfolios.
It took a bit longer than that. But
2 weeks. I don't know. It probably took some time actually, because
it took some time
to go and revamp. Yeah, because to go back and revamp a portfolio is a really challenging task. And anyone who wants to know more about portfolios should go back to. We should have a list of these episodes. Something. We talk about how to create a portfolio for hiring purposes. And so that took some time. I didn't work for a significant period. I think it was like
I think it was a month and a half. And after a month, I was like, okay, David, you gotta wrap up that portfolio. Like, you just kept like tweaking every single thing. And I was like, okay, man, like you just gotta get it out. Like you gotta get it out now because I think there is there is always a risk when you take a break on things and you're actually never going to get back to it. Like you take a break from the gym for like a week, 2 weeks, and then a month, 6 months, and you're actually probably never going to go back to the gym again, right? And as the significant other living with you and working every day, my fear was that you would just like start losing confidence in yourself because you got let go, and just trapped yourself into working on portfolio and in design every single day until the thing was perfect.
No, and it was never an issue of confidence with me because I'm an arrogant fuck. But I do remember though that after like 3 weeks, because you go to interview and the interviewing takes like a week and a half and there's negotiations for weeks. But after the first 3 weeks of not working, you started to feel like this is a dangerous place to be in, exactly as you're saying. Because
I would come home, you would be wearing your like hospital blue pants, which you wear as PJs. There would be like food and plates everywhere. It's just like a TV show. And I'm coming back from work and I'm like, what the fuck? Now I gotta take care of him? But, like, come on.
So I do remember being in that space and thinking like, this is a dangerous zone. And and also for me, I wanted to see what it felt like. The same thing as like after I got fired in the middle of the day, I'm gonna go sit on a park bench. There's no reason I could go home and like Netflix things, but instead I'm going to choose to sit on a park bench and watch life go by. This is like
the luxury.
But it's like you want to live in a movie sometimes. So I want to experience what it means like to be unemployed and in my PJs and eating
nachos,
carbs all day. Yeah, let me live in it. Let me live in the chili. But I do remember getting near a threshold or being around a threshold of like, I can see where it would be really easy to stay here, especially if you have just enough money to get by a little bit. And then suddenly it's like after a week of not working, you're like, I don't need money. I don't need anything. I don't need to fucking work, man. I'll just hang out. I'll just hang out here in this apartment. Like I have food here. There's food in the refrigerator. I canned food for like another, I don't know, a couple months, 6 months. I got Amazon.
And on my hand, I was like, okay, well, we're okay for this month because we already paid rent. But I cannot be paying rent for the both of us next month. So you better find a job.
And I think it's that's a really dangerous thing, right? To let yourself kind of go too far. But I don't know if I'd recommend it, but I think it is. It's a very specific life experience to be used to working and then to stop and then to not have school or nothing and then to be sitting around like a piece of shit. I think getting a taste of it, I think, was worthwhile.
No, well,
but it's a slippery slope, much like cocaine.
Yeah, because you know what cocaine is about. No, you don't. You probably have some allergic reaction to cocaine.
I probably would.
You're
probably
so sensible.
Yeah. My asthma.
And the one thing you actually looked into, because I mentioned it, I was like, because I'm French, right?
Unemployment.
And it was unemployment because in French, a lot of people abuse the unemployment system, and you work and some of your working money goes toward that, so you might as well just find out about it. And that's probably something I would recommend somebody who just got let go is look into that the next day it happens, because it takes a while to get the paperwork and all of the stuff through.
Yeah.
And it's not that much money, but you've been working and contributing to it, so you might as well get some back when you need it.
Yeah, I definitely do it immediately because it takes time, and it's the government. It takes fucking forever. But it's not a lot of money. But I remember reading. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, "This is like."
I know you mentioned that, and I was like, "No, David, that's like, not enough for living."
It's not enough for living in the place that we're at, but like, I know a lot of people who are working for less as an architect, as a graduated person.
Yeah,
they've been out of school for like 2 years, and they're working and they're making less. I'm like, these motherfuckers don't know. You could just be on unemployment.
Well, yeah, but it depends on how much you've been making in the years before. I know there's all that, but that's to tell you the and this is in New York State. And it varies from state to state, but that's to tell you like how little a lot of people get paid when they graduate from like it's legitimately more money. Unemployment is more money than what you get paid when you graduate from school. Yeah.
For a lot of people we knew. And I remember thinking like, well, I was in this position before with less money. Let's just do this again, but have free time. But then so using that little gap to think about your career, where you want to go, where you want to be, and all that stuff is a really healthy thing to do. And for me, it was a chance to do that and really broaden the vision to think about, because I've always had one foot into teaching. It's like, do I want to teach? Do I want to do this? What is it exactly I'm trying?
What is your options?
What's my mission? What's my objective? And then working on the portfolio, and then just starting the job application process all over again. And there's not much else to do outside of that. You know,
let me go back to the portfolio then.
Sure.
So you got fired.
Yeah.
You were not able to like grab the stuff you've been working on. So what did you do for, let's say you've been working in that office for 3 years. You have no track record of that. What do you put in your portfolio?
Okay. No. I mean, the people that I worked with gave me stuff. Even the guy who was in charge of firing me gave me the stuff because it's,
that's something legitimate to ask them for. Be like, okay, now I have to look for a job. Like, can I at least have some stuff?
You should definitely not hesitate to ask. And I don't think,
you already fired anyway, so you have nothing to lose to ask. I
don't think any office would withhold those projects from you, because they all understand like this is how you get a job. This is how it works. I suppose unless you did something really horrific, then they wouldn't. But yeah, they're going to get you stuff.
Unless you slept with the boss's wife, then maybe you won't get it.
Well, then you just get the wife to get it for you.
There we go. Problem solved. And what about then the interviews that you were at? Did you tell them that you got let go, or did you kind of say something else?
If it came up, I told them you shouldn't lie in an interview.
Holding information isn't lying, right?
Okay, if they ask you point blank, like what happened, you have to tell them what happened. But obviously you don't say, I got fired. You just tell them, I was let go. The project ended, not enough work to go around. And they're like, okay, yeah, fine. Because they 100% have been there as an employer many times in the past. They're like, yeah, fine. Like, how many depressions have we been through? It's like, yeah, okay, not enough work. You got let go. And if anything, they're going to have sympathy. Like, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Because it's what happens in this field.
Then cry a little bit.
Based in the construction industry.
And cry a little bit. Put out the tissue. It doesn't sound like crying.
Yeah, it's a really minor thing, and they're not going to care. And even if you were fired for other reasons, you just fucking say you were let go because of yada yada, and they don't care. But the strategy is just to not burn any bridges, and you never want to speak poorly of an office.
I think that's the biggest one.
Even if they did let you go and you hate them, and et cetera, et cetera. And another thing that someone kept telling me when it happened was like, what are some of the cliche things? Like one door closes, another one opens. The sun's on the other side of the hill, or things always get better, or whatever. And I think the concept of forced transformation, I could have, if someone had told me that at the time, I would have been like, yeah, okay, I get that. Transformation doesn't mean it's good or bad, but a change is going to happen. But then people tell me like, well, it just means that it's all going to work out for the better. I'm like, fuck you. You don't fucking know that. And that's not true. That is, I think it's a nice sentiment. And I think that if you put effort into things, you can manipulate the universe to give you that outcome. But I also honestly think it's almost a little discourteous or like disrespectful or rude to the people that it hasn't worked out for, and just because of bad luck, And
I remember when that happened, most of our friends didn't know about it, even close friends.
I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anyone.
But that's the thing. It's embarrassing, and I don't think you should have, and anyone should feel embarrassed because, unless you did something wrong, really, like, it's just, it was just bad luck.
I think right? There's an embarrassment also. You just don't want to relive it. You know what I mean?
You don't want to relive it, and I think it's like, when, I don't know, you say you have depression or you have this and that issue. If people haven't gone through, they don't really know, and I don't think you necessarily want to hear advice from people who have no idea what it's like when it happens, right?
Maybe. I think that's valid. The thing is, if you have a really close circle of people that you speak with about serious issues, and you confide in them and you speak with them and you have conversations and there's a dialogue, and you yourself are a pretty introspective or thoughtful person, which I like to think that I'm fairly thoughtful, not necessarily good or bad. I just tend to think about a lot of things. Then it's like, yeah, you're right. I don't care to talk about this with someone who has no experience, because it's either going to be kind of bullshit stuff, they're going to feel uncomfortable, and they're not going to have anything new to say. And also, if I talk about it, that means I have to keep thinking about it, Or
they're going to keep asking you about how are you doing, how is it?
And I don't need to put up with this. And also, at the time, it's like I got other things to be worrying about. Like it sounds dumb, but like having to return phone calls or having to text people on Instagram or whatever, like I don't have time for that. Like I'd rather be thinking about my Doritos and Netflix in my portfolio, and I don't want to be communicating with the outside world. And there is something very dangerous, again, about shutting yourself off from the outside, but there is also something very peaceful and fascinating and productive about it. If you let it be productive and you don't let it be, a negative thing.
And I think that really depends on your personality. Yeah. Like if you're not a go-get-it type of person and you take it very personally and you're, very sensible about it, shutting yourself down from everyone else and the world might not help you.
No, it's true. It's true. You just need to know,
if you're single by yourself and you don't have any family to support you, like, you might want to have someone you can talk to about that stuff, just so you're not alone in your own head.
Yeah, I think the weird thing about not working is that, so when you are working full time, if you want to make a change of any kind, it takes a lot of effort. It's extra effort, right? Especially if you're in a crazy city like New York. It's like 101% every day just to live and survive and make it to work without getting hit by a subway train. And so if you want to do anything else outside of that, change jobs, take on a hobby, go see people, whatever, it's like you need an extra 10% on top of the 101 to do it. But when you aren't working, you have all this free time and energy. So it's not like you're really having to put in extra work. It's more about just kind of, like the energy you have is just pulling you in a direction already because you have an abundance of energy. So it's more about just directing which direction you're going to get pulled, because you're going to get pulled no matter what. You just need to make sure that it's going in the right way, right? And for different people, that could mean being inside for a period than outside, or whatever combination. Or
even like start a hobby, start going to the gym, like every time there is a tough situation or something that's not pleasant in life, I think I'm always, the type of person who would like seek excitement and happiness in like small things. Right? So if something brings you, like Marie Kondo says, if something brings you joy, well, bring the joy.
Yeah, I don't think that works when you're fired.
But it could be small things, just to like, like.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you could like learn how to bake bread or some bullshit. But it's more like, the strange thing is like nothing tastes good anymore. It's kind of like.
Yeah, you're bitter about life.
No, yeah. But like even food doesn't taste like food. Like you could order a fat pizza from your favorite pizza place or whatever it might be, and it's not going to taste like anything, And it's going to the gym. You go to the gym. It's like but what's the point? Like there's no point in anything, and that's the kind of dangerous headspace. And you have to find a way to get out of it. So, doing the portfolio applications and doing all that is the best way to get out there again. And, somewhere between a week to maybe even up to 2 months of a break, I think is okay to the next employer, because 2 months could be like a long vacation in the Alps or some nonsense.
I mean, it's pretty short, and if you keep, if you think about the time you work on the portfolio, you get it done, you print it, you go distribute it, you follow up, you get an interview, you follow up again, you get a second interview. It adds up quickly. But I think it's important to set goals.
Set goals, and also I wouldn't rush into the next job. If for some reason you were fired on a Friday and you had the potential to work on Monday at a place that you weren't so keen on, I don't know. I don't know if I would do that. If you have enough money to call, if you already paid rent, right, and you have at least like a few weeks ahead of you, I wouldn't do that, because it's a rebound relationship at that point, working for the next office. And so I don't agree with the sentiment that it's all going to work out. Things always work out for the better in the end, because that's not the case. But if it happened to be the case for me in this particular situation, applied to. I'm trying to think back now. How many offices did I apply to? Not nearly as many as I used to, because I was being much more selective. So maybe I'll call 5 offices, maybe a bit more. I don't know. And had some pretty good actually all really good interviews, and got a couple of offers and things. And the one office I was the most keen on, the office I wanted to work at the most, that for whatever reason I was really drawn to from a pretty young age in the architect career, I got hired, and they gave me the amount that I wanted, which is 100% fantastic, but also means like I didn't ask for enough money, which was proven by the fact that like when I came for the raise the following year, I got a giant ass raise, because I'm like, okay, well clearly I like undersold myself by like 10 grand. So it all worked out, and like that office I worked at was one of the best ones by far. Great projects, great team. Like it was just all fucking ideal because I got let go. And I'm not saying it's going to be that way for everyone. That's not the case, but there's that potential and there's a possibility. And even the places I didn't work at afterwards, the ones I interviewed at, they were all good places, and I met some good people, and it was just, it was coming out of it, everything was much more positive than you might have thought. And the thing too is, I think maybe when you get let go, or if you quit, anytime you leave an office period, you forget that you've evolved when you were at the office that you just left.
And you're going to forget very quickly about the previous place.
Oh, yeah.
Which is weird when you think about. Every time I go through like something difficult, like a difficult situation or like pain or whatever, I try to always think about, but soon that's going to be over, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to just think about like the next thing in a very positive way. Just think about the good that's coming to you. Mm-hmm. Like this is going to end. It's not going to last forever.
Right. Yeah. And so I don't know. I think.
So did you keep in touch with your coworker from that place, or were you kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna completely seal it and not look back?
There's one person who was my assigned mentor which is a totally like, an arranged relationship. But he actually ended up being like a really cool person and really smart and funny and just a great human being. And I don't keep in touch with anyone really, but every now and then, like I follow him on Instagram. Like this is the extent of how I keep in touch with my friends. I follow you on Instagram. So him, and I was intending to meet up with some other people from the office, but it never happened because life moved. Like once you go to the next office, regardless of how you left the previous one, once you move to the next one, you find it awkward to meet up with old employees, even if you left there on your own, by your own choosing, and these were like really good friends that you sat next to. Once you leave that office, it's like, I have no reason to talk to you anymore, kind of. And it's tough because you have a whole new life, And for anyone who's left an office, what we're talking about. And this is also why that we're on this podcast, we're always kind of encouraging to move offices every couple years or not be afraid of it, because it's like you're seeing a new dimension, a new side of the world when you change change workplaces. It's like, I don't know, like the first time I went to China, the people ask me like what it was like. The thing I always say is like, I could really sense that these people were evolved on the other side of the planet. Like think about the fucking solar system and the size of planet Earth, that these people were like born, evolved entirely on this other side. They're nothing like us really. They're totally different from like their DNA is almost different. The way their thoughts, like everything's different.
Even if you look like them, you're not.
The thing is, I don't really, right? I look like I'm Korean. Maybe I go to Korea and be like, and so that was the experience going to China. But it's almost the same thing like when you go to a new office, you've been there for a bit of time, you look back at this other office, you look over your shoulder, and you're like, this is some kind of like shadow universe that's in the past. It's like not even real anymore. Like you fucking guys are still talking about these problems of like these bosses, like
move on
with your life, man. There's much more to like talk about over drinks than like your boss's personality. Like they are not that important in the realm, in the space of the universe, the world, or even this fucking city or this part of the city. They're insignificant, And so I think being let go sucks, but it's like that opportunity to have that kind of clarity of vision only happens if you have the balls to leave or if it's forced on you. But either way, it's really fantastic. And I would probably rather be fired at least once rather than stay at the same job my entire life. 100%, actually, 100%. You stay at the same job, you're just missing so many things. All right, so he asked, let me just go back here. Oh, yeah, so what steps to take when you're let go? So first step, during it happening, stay calm, don't cry, be nice, be courteous.
Thank them.
Say all the nice things. And then talk to your support group, and then just use the time to reflect, kind of hang out, take a breath, right? But don't let yourself get sucked into the nacho Netflix abyss. And then once you figured out what it is you want to do, fucking attack that thing. And I remember for me, teaching was on the table. I was like, maybe I can go just full force into teaching. I've always liked it, et cetera, et cetera. But I had felt that there were things I needed to accomplish working in an office before teaching. I also knew deep down that if I tried to teach part or full time, at that point, it would have been a cop-out in a way. It would have been a cop-out because there's a lot of teachers who it would have been a cop-out. I don't know. It's a weird thing for me. When I go to schools and I see all the part-time teachers talk about whatever nonsense, I'm like, yeah, you guys aren't really, you know what I mean? You're not really.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, really.
None of that matters.
You think you matter because the students love you, and that has significance, but in the broad scheme of things, like, you don't really matter. So figure out what you want to do, then prepare and then apply for
and think
for the
really
next
hard
move.
where you're applying.
Yeah, and if those places don't work out, then just roll with it. Go to the next one. Because no matter what, even if you can't get the dream job that you've been wanting, or the second tier dream job, or third or fourth or fifth or sixth or 10th, even then, the change is going to be an education itself. Even if you end up at a place that's even shittier, it's still education, it's still knowledge, it's still a new experience, it's still new insights, you're still going to become a better person because of it. And then you just keep evolving until the next one.
What and if, you were in that place for a few years and you haven't interviewed in a while?
Yeah.
Maybe just having some interview to warm you up is not a bad idea.
And in that case, you should text your interview questions to our hotline or call our hotline, because we're going to do a recording about interviewing, and it'd be good to hear from you. But actually, this will come out after the interview, so that makes no sense at all. So hopefully by now you would have listened to the interview episode, which we have not yet recorded. But if there's anything we didn't cover, then let us know. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else you should do. What else should you do?
I think that's a pretty good list.
I'm thinking, on the other end, if you got fired or let go and they told you, explicitly why. Actually, we've had friends who were let go, and it was because of and the reason they gave was not a vague kind of like not enough work or whatever, but it was like because you used your computer for personal reasons or something like this. You violated the contract, the policy, office policy, and therefore we're letting you go. And yeah, actually, this happened. Yeah, so this has happened to people we know. And I remember getting the phone call from this person, and they were pissed. They were so pissed. And this particular person could be quite fiery. I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not the boss, because it's like, it's almost like when it happens, you just need to be able to, you need that person to be able to vent to. And it's not about like learning new things. It's not about productive intellectual dialogue or getting advice. There's nothing about receiving. It's all about just putting stuff out there. It's like hitting a punching bag. You're just fucking putting it out there. And I think that's an important step in the process too.
To put it out there?
To put it out. Just fucking put your thoughts out there, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, go yell, go talk to someone, say everything you want to say about it, go punch a bag if it helps you, get that stuff out of yourself. Because
there are certain things that are valid, but you also know that the more you that by saying them more doesn't change anything. It doesn't fix anything. Doesn't provide new insight, but it feels good to say it. And I think it's kind of like you say it enough, you just get exhausted of saying it, and then it becomes like meaningless, And I think that could be very helpful too. But even if you were let go because you did something wrong, and you knew yourself, like, I did this thing, I probably shouldn't have done it. I was let go, and the office knows it was wrong that I did this. That's, in a way, even more embarrassing, perhaps. But also, I think sometimes we think of ourselves as being much more important than we actually are. And maybe that sounds harsh, but I think it's true, that we think we're much more important than we are. We think that we matter more than we do. And we think that other people think about us more than they actually do. And I think that's maybe on the one hand that is kind of depressing, but on the other hand it's really freeing, because it's like then who gives a fuck if they're not really if they're not appreciative of you, then if they don't appreciate the positives of me, or even if they didn't like me and they told me I was fired because they didn't like the work I was doing, and also I stole too many pens or whatever, and I'm being let go, and all your colleagues were there and they witnessed you being fired, and they witnessed the boss saying that you stole many pens and you don't do good work. they're all kind of like minor blips in the timeline of like your life and the universe, and it just move on to the next thing. It's maybe it sounds weird, but it's a similar thing to, we invite some of our friends and people on our podcast, either because we like them or because they're really interesting people. Like, you should come on the show.
Or both.
And a lot of times, more often than you might think, listeners, we hear, like, I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want people to hear my voice and hear what I'm thinking and stuff. And I totally understand it. I had those same hesitancies, but for slightly different reasons in the beginning and stuff. But the truth is, after we've been doing this for over 2.5 years, almost 3 years actually, no one gives a fuck. Like, you are human. You're making yourself up to be way too big of a deal. Yeah. You're not the president. You're not a celebrity. And even if celebrities don't give a fuck, you're not an actress. You're not Lady Gaga. You're not a politician. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, And when you think about and that's an attitude that I have now with a podcast, which is viral and which is digital, and we have listeners like I don't know how many countries we have listeners in. A lot of countries.
A lot of countries.
It's kind of weird.
It's kind of strange.
We're like always in like above top 10 in like a bunch of countries. It's crazy. But so that's the attitude I have on here. So think about how that gets scaled down to like whatever city you're in, and I know the architecture and design community is small, and therefore it feels like it's much more therefore it feels like your existence is bigger within it, right? No, but not really. There's even the architecture community at a countrywide scale. It's a big place, and also the thing too is we're all of us are just evolving and growing anyway. So it's just one step in the process of whoever you are, But if you let yourself stay in that space and suffer because of it internally, and then let that affect what actions you take or don't take, then you're staying in it, and that's what you can't do. You know what I mean?
And I think the more you happen to talk to people, the more you see that there is actually more people than that got fired
or worse things.
Actually, I just was thinking, I think both my parents lost their job at some point in their life. My mom got let go after she gave birth to my sister, and she was taking care of her because she had like pretty important like birth problems. And her boss let her go while she was dealing with a baby that was sick, which is completely fucked up. And I think my dad lost his job because his company shut down. Yeah. That reminds me of like the 2009 crash and a lot of people who lost their job at that time.
Oh, sad.
No, but like to tell you that, right now, it might be like isolated individuals that lose their job. But if there is another job crisis, maybe more of us are going to lose their job. Yeah. So it's not something like, everyone can be protected against. It could happen for anybody.
And honestly, I've always felt more people should be fired. I mean, all the offices I've worked at, there's
problem people for sure in many places, and people know that they're creating problems, and they choose to keep them for various reasons that are not enough. And for sure, you should do like some sweeping, and like clean up the house.
All the places I've worked at, there's been the kind of tight group of people that you're friends with, and it's probably the mentality that all groups of people have within an office. But you always feel like that your little organization of people has a better reading of the office than everyone else. It's like, that person, they do this, and that person does that. And that person that definitely should be like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And probably on the other side of the table, the people in the other corner of the office feel the same way too. But what that means is that someone in the office should be fired for sure.
The worst part is when these problem people are in power position.
Oh, my fuck's sake, yeah.
That happened to me many times. And I'm like, this person is never going to get fired because they're too high in the food chain, for the big boss to actually make that move. Because the big boss doesn't even know that they're creating problems.
I mean, when you think about it, really, what it takes to be in an office itself is a strange thing, because it's like here are these 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever people in this one physical location. A lot of times it's basically a big room. You're all there. You're there 40 to 60 or whatever hours a week together working, and you have very little in common other than the profession that you maybe have stumbled into and the fact that you were hired, which is just a gamble because like 80% of getting hired is timing, and you're all in this room, you got to work together. That's kind of insane. It's the same thing as like when you're a kid and you first go to school, like in kindergarten, and you show up and there's all these random kids like, go play with these kids. I don't know who the fuck these people are. I don't know how these people. They're like summer camp, like, oh, go have fun and play around and climb trees. I don't know these kids. I don't know. They're my friends. They're fucking strangers. That kid over there is missing an eye. Like, what the fuck? What am I doing here?
What kind of summer camp did you go to?
It's kind of a weird summer camp. So it's the same, an office is actually the same thing, but we just don't realize it because we, as adults, quote unquote, we understand the niceties, we understand the courtesies we have to have in the office to make it all work out evenly. And also because the company you work for, they hold your paycheck. They're fucking in control of your livelihood and whether or not you can feed your kids and things like this. It's not voluntary. You're not there for funsies. And so there's a very superficial kind of, superficial like smoothness to the operations within an office because of that. But really at the end of the day, how likely is it you're going to get 30 different people to be in the same room 60 hours a week and they all work together well? And that's one question. The other question is that all of them are going to fit within the office culture, however that even gets manifested and created and whatever. That everyone, like they're all perfectly, they're different pieces to the same puzzle. Really fucking unlikely, right? So if you think about how often people get fired from the offices you've been at, well, there probably should be like more searching for the right puzzle pieces, So that also means that for a person that if you did get let go, it just means you're not the right piece for them, which was very unlikely anyway. Yeah. Yeah. And also fuck them. So that's I think that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And just stay positive and just go get the new exciting stuff.
But for this particular person or anyone else out there, any other questions about getting let go, let us know. Or if you've been let go yourself and you have some advice for this particular listener, then definitely write us, call us, and share us your stories. If you had a great one or a bad one or a funny one, let us know. And I think that'll be it for this episode. And that's a pretty good one, right? Okay. Yep. What else is going on? We have the hotline is 213-222-6950. Again, call it for any questions or observations or concerns, things you don't like about this profession of design and or architecture.
Text us if you're abroad.
Yeah, text us if you're abroad.
You can shoot us an email at hello@midnightcharette.com, 1 R 2 T's.
And of course, if you thought that this conversation was helpful, enlightening, funny, or you just want to support the show, then the best thing you can do is leave us a review on iTunes. I know a lot of you listening don't listen on iTunes. You listen on Spotify, you listen on Stitcher or the website or whatever else. And it's just the nature of podcasting at this point that the only reviews that actually make a difference for any of the podcasts are via iTunes. So you can do that on your phone. It's pretty easy. Download the app. You're all probably tech savvy. Easy to do on your phone. You can do it via an Android. I think you can do it on Android too.
Nah, I don't think so.
But on a desktop, you can download iTunes, Apple, or for Mac or for PC. Super easy. You punch in your email, you log in or make a new account or whatever it is, find the show, leave a review. That stuff really means a lot to supporting us and helping us get useful information out there to more people and keeping the circle going around. And
we're also on YouTube once in a while, so you can subscribe to our channel. And I believe if you click on the little bell that's on there, you get notification of anything we post on YouTube. If not, the notifications are kind of sporadic. So if you don't want to miss anything, you can do that. You can leave us a comment. You can like videos. It's also helpful for us to know which content you prefer to watch and, which one you enjoy. You can send us a DM on Instagram. We check that pretty often.
We're around. And if we don't respond after 5 days or a week, then just write back to us. We have no problem with people following up like every week if we don't stay on top of things, because that's what we do. That's what it takes sometimes. Anything else? Oops.
I think that's all.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Midnight Charette podcast. It really means a lot, and we love the fact that we're getting to have a dialogue with this community, and we'll keep it going. Talk to you next week or sooner. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.